Dear pioneers, I am Chengyao Fan, co-founder of Pi Network. Today, I want to have an honest conversation with you about a topic that has been widely discussed in Silicon Valley and the global capital markets recently. Why has SpaceX, which repeatedly said it would never go public, suddenly changed course and is now rushing toward an IPO? For many years, Elon Musk publicly stated that SpaceX would not list on the stock market. He worried that public market pressure for short-term results would interfere with the company's long-term vision, especially the ambitious goal of making humanity a multi-planetary species. However, recent reports indicate that SpaceX has confidentially filed for an IPO with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, aiming to go public sometime in the middle or later part of 2026. The valuation could reach as high as $1.75 trillion, making it potentially one of the largest IPOs in history. Why the sudden change? What are the real reasons behind this U-turn today? I will share my honest analysis with you in a calm and objective way. 1. Why SpaceX previously refused to go public. Elon Musk explained his reasons for not listing several times. They can be summarized in 3 main points. First, he did not want SpaceX to be constrained by the short-term performance demands of public markets. Public companies must report quarterly results, and stock price fluctuations can heavily influence decision-making. Musk feared that shareholders would push for faster profits, which could undermine long-term projects like Starship development and the Mars colonization plan that require patience and sustained investment. Second, he wanted to maintain full control over the company. As direction, going public would bring in more external shareholders and potentially change the board structure. Musk was concerned that his strategic vision for the company could be diluted. Third, SpaceX did not urgently need public market financing. For a long time, the company was able to sustain itself through NASA contracts, Starlink revenue, and private funding rounds. Its cash flow was relatively healthy, so there was no pressing need to go public. These reasons sounded reasonable and aligned with Musk's long-termist philosophy. That is why the news that SpaceX is now actively preparing for an IPO surprised many people. 2. Why is SpaceX suddenly in a hurry? According to the latest reports and multiple analyses, the core drivers behind SpaceX's decision to pursue an IPO can be summarized as follows. 1. Dramatically increased capital needs, especially for AI-related projects. SpaceX recently merged with Musk, SXXAI, with a combined valuation of $1.25 trillion. After the merger, SpaceX's capital requirements have surged sharply. The most critical project is the orbital AI data center plan. SpaceX aims to build distributed data centers in space using the Starlink satellite network, taking advantage of solar power and natural cooling in orbit to support large AI models like Grok from xAI. This plan requires enormous funding purchasing chips, designing satellite-based computing units, and conducting massive launch missions. Traditional private financing is no longer sufficient to meet such a massive scale, and an IPO offers the most realistic and efficient way to raise hundreds of billions of dollars to fuel these ambitious projects. 2. Starlink. As rapid growth requires accelerated capital investment, Starlink is currently SpaceX's main revenue source and cash cow. User growth has been extremely strong, but achieving global coverage, direct-to-cell service, and supporting orbital data centers still requires massive satellite launches, ground station construction, and continuous technological upgrades. An IPO can provide the necessary capital to accelerate Starlink's global deployment, while also offering retail investors a chance to participate. Reports suggest SpaceX plans to allocate a significant portion of shares to individual investors. 3. Employee incentives and liquidity. SpaceX has a large number of long-term employees who hold valuable equity, but lack liquidity. An IPO would allow employees to realize the value of their years of hard work and help attract and retain top talent. 4. Favorable policy and market environment following Trump's election. U.S. policy expectations for the aerospace and technology sectors have become more supportive. The market is also at a relatively high level, creating a favorable IPO window. SpaceX may have chosen this timing to take advantage of these positive conditions. 5. Strategic considerations. Index inclusion and brand influence reports suggest SpaceX hopes to quickly enter major indices, such as NASDAQ through the IPO, attracting long-term passive capital. At the same time, going public would further enhance SpaceX's global brand influence and support Starlink's expansion in more countries. In summary, the core reason SpaceX suddenly got in a hurry is the sharp increase in capital requirements. Ambitious goals such as Starship, the Mars program, orbital AI data centers, and Starlink's global expansion now demand funding on a scale far beyond what private markets can easily provide. An IPO has become the most realistic and efficient financing solution. 3. What does this mean for the industry and for us, pioneers? When we look at SpaceX's IPO plan, it carries broad implications for the entire industry. For the cryptocurrency and blockchain sector, this is an important signal. Even someone like Musk, who once firmly opposed going public, has had to compromise in the face of massive real-world capital needs. It reminds us that any grand vision ultimately requires sustainable funding, and public markets remain one of the most effective ways to raise such capital for the convergence of traditional finance and emerging technology. SpaceX IPO could be one of the most watched mega events of 2026. It may open a new wave of technology listings and provide valuation and financing benchmarks for other aerospace, new energy, and AI companies. For ordinary investors, it represents both opportunity and risk. SpaceX's valuation is already extremely high, targeting $1.75 trillion or more. So short-term volatility after listing could be significant. Rational judgment will be essential. 4. Pi Network. As perspective our own path as co-founder of Pi Network, I have always believed that technology and development should ultimately serve humanity rather than the other way around. SpaceX's shift from never going public to actively preparing for an IPO once again highlights a universal challenge in technological development. Great dreams often require enormous capital, and public markets are one of the most effective ways to obtain it. Pi Network has chosen a different path from the very beginning: utility first, real users first, and long-term value first. We did not rush to list or chase short-term valuations. Instead, we focused on building a digital economic infrastructure that allows ordinary people to participate and benefit. In high capital intensity fields, like AI and aerospace, capital is indispensable. However, we hope to see capital serve genuine innovation rather than pure speculation and bubbles. Pi will continue to move forward at its own steady pace, advancing the second migration, improving the referral mining reward system, cautiously rolling out smart contracts, and deepening practical ecosystem applications. We believe that only systems built on real users and real contributions can endure over the long term. 5. Final thoughts, pioneers, SpaceX. S dramatic shift from refusing to go public to actively pursuing an IPO essentially reflects the collision between grand long-term vision and pressing real-world capital needs. It reminds us that in pursuing ambitious goals, we must find sustainable paths for financing and development. For us at Pi, this is a case worth observing and learning from. It reinforces our commitment to building a system that balances long-term vision with practical reality. Thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for your continued support and contributions to the Pi ecosystem. The future of Pi is bright because of all of you. Let us continue working together to bring more utility, authenticity, and long-term value into every part of the Pi ecosystem.